I mean, she played an incredible match, and I tried my very best. I was fighting till the very last point. I had my opportunities. Feels like I missed a couple, but I mean, it's tennis, you know. Today you loser, tomorrow you winner. So hopefully I'll be more of a winner this season than a loser. So hoping right now and praying.
The tennis world just got rocked, and this isn't a small aftershock. It's a full-blown earthquake. If you haven't seen the headlines yet, brace yourself. World no. One Aryna Sabalenka has officially withdrawn from the Qatar Open. Yes, the reigning top player on the planet fresh off a brutal Australian Open final run, is out. But here's where it gets explosive, she's not alone. This isn't one superstar protecting her schedule. This is a mass exodus. A shocking wave of withdrawals that's turning one of the WTA's biggest events into a tournament hanging by a thread. Big names are disappearing from the draw one after another, and suddenly the Qatar Open doesn't look stacked, it looks shaken. Sabalenka's exit grabs the spotlight. She's a former champion here, a player who lifted this trophy in 2020 on her rise to dominance. But behind her withdrawal is a bigger story: player fatigue, scheduling pressure, and serious questions about the WTA calendar. What we're witnessing isn't random. It feels like a breaking point. And this could change women's tennis moving forward.
So the other day with Alex Eala, you know, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. You know, there's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. You know, she's been the biggest ever, you know, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's big interest. So things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, you know, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule them on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's so young and she's just coming through. So and obviously the first couple rounds, the schedule is so packed. The big courts with big names, it's difficult. It's not easy to manage that. But again, it's a good problem to have, to be honest. You know.
This was definitely one of the bigger Filipino turnouts. Also New York was huge. It was tough because it also depends what court you're on, you know, that you feel the noise and things. I would say the top two so far have been Melbourne and New York.
But Sabalenka is only the headline. She's just the first domino to fall. Jessica Pegula, world no. 6 and one of the steadiest, most reliable forces on tour, is out. Naomi Osaka, the 4-time Grand Slam champion working her way back to top form, looked at the Middle East swing and opted out entirely. Madison Keys withdrew. Barbara Krejcikova stepped away. Marketa Vondrousova added her name to the growing injury list. Even Leylah Fernandez, a fan favorite many expected to make noise this season, hasn't even launched her 2025 campaign yet. Are you seeing the pattern? This isn't a typical week where one or two players pull out with minor issues. This feels coordinated, strategic, calculated. It's as if half the WTA Tour collectively decided Doha simply isn't worth the physical toll, the travel grind, or the emotional investment right now. And for tournament organizers, this has to feel like a nightmare unfolding in real time. The Qatar Open was marketed as a premier showcase: world-class tennis, elite matchups, superstar power lighting up the courts. Tickets were sold months in advance, with Sabalenka, Pegula, Osaka, and other global names splashed across promotional material. Sponsors signed deals expecting marquee clashes. Broadcasters built coverage around star-driven storylines. Now, the draw looks dramatically different. With so many withdrawals, organizers are scrambling to patch holes in the main draw. Players who were originally preparing for qualifying rounds, fighting just for a chance to enter, are suddenly being elevated into main draw positions. That's not a slight against those athletes. They're professionals competing at an extraordinary level. But let's be honest, this wasn't the plan. A premier-level WTA event isn't designed to survive on last-minute reshuffling. It's built around star power, rivalries, ranking implications, and momentum. When that star layer evaporates days before competition begins, the entire structure wobbles. And the domino effect all traces back to Melbourne. Sabalenka's Australian Open final wasn't just another championship match. It was a grueling, emotionally draining war against Elena Rybakina. 2 weeks of relentless intensity, pressure, expectation, all culminating in a battle that demanded everything she had. When you reach the final of a Grand Slam, it's not just your body that's exhausted. It's your nervous system, your focus, your reserves of belief. What made this situation even more revealing was Sabalenka's honesty afterward. she didn't default to the usual athlete script. There was no polished, corporate response about learning from the loss or taking positives. Instead, she was refreshingly human. She admitted Rybakina played an incredible match. She acknowledged that she had opportunities and that she let a couple slip. And then she said something that cut deeper than any rehearsed quote ever could. One day you're the loser, the next day you're the winner. And then came the line that truly exposed the emotional weight she was carrying. She said she hopes and prays she'll be more of a winner this season than a loser. Think about that for a moment. This is the world no. 1. A multiple Grand Slam champion. A player who has dominated big stages and thrived under pressure. And she's talking about hope. About praying the season tilts in her favor. That's not arrogance. That's not invincibility. That's vulnerability. That it's the reality of what happens when an elite athlete pushes to the brink for 2 straight weeks, stands one match away from glory, and walks off court just short of the ultimate prize. There's an emotional hangover that follows something like that. A recalibration period. A need to protect what's left in the tank. Now zoom out. If Sabalenka feels that level of depletion, imagine what the rest of the tour is experiencing. The WTA calendar is relentless. Travel jumps from continent to continent. Surfaces change. Conditions shift. Recovery windows shrink. Players are managing injuries, ranking pressures, endorsement obligations, and mental fatigue, all while trying to peak multiple times across an 11-month season. Skipping Doha may not be about one tournament. It may be about survival, strategic rest, injury prevention, preserving longevity, protecting mental health, choosing the battles that matter most. From the outside, it looks like chaos, a tournament unraveling as star after star withdraws. But from the inside, it might be something else entirely, players reclaiming control of their schedules in a system that rarely slows down. Still, the optics are brutal. Fans feel disappointed. Organizers feel blindsided. Broadcasters scramble to adjust narratives. And the conversation inevitably shifts toward bigger questions about scheduling, workload, and whether the WTA calendar is sustainable in its current form. Because when this many elite names pull out at once, it's not random. It's a signal. And the Qatar Open may end up being remembered not for who wins the trophy but for the week the tour quietly revealed its breaking point. The journalist didn't let it go. After Sabalenka opened up about the pain of losing the Australian Open final, she was asked the obvious next question: when would she sit down with her team and actually review the match? Her answer said everything. She admitted she wasn't sure when she'd be ready to watch it back. Maybe in a few days. Maybe in a week. Maybe whenever she feels strong enough to move on. She even joked with her agent about it, half laughing, half deflecting, the kind of humor people use when the wound is still fresh. Then she described her emotional state in a way you almost never hear from a world no. One that she said she was laughing and crying at the same time. That it felt hysterical. That it wasn't productive. She was just letting it all out, the frustration, the disappointment, the anger that had been building for 2 straight weeks in Melbourne. She admitted she was upset with herself. Once again, she felt like she had chances in a major final but couldn't sustain her highest level when Rybakina raised the intensity. That moment of self-criticism slipped out naturally, raw and unfiltered. But then something interesting happened. She caught herself. She acknowledged that overall, she had played incredible tennis in Australia. Even in the final. She gave everything she had. Rybakina was simply better that day. That was the truth. No excuses. And then came the line that peeled back the curtain completely: that will speak with the team. How they try to avoid me because it's not really healthy to be around me right now. Let that sink in. The world know. One openly admitting that her own team, the people paid to guide her, support her, and help her navigate moments exactly like this, are giving her space because her emotional energy is overwhelming. That level of transparency is almost unheard of in elite tennis. Most players protect their image carefully. They present the resilient warrior persona. They talk about lessons learned, hunger growth. They package their emotions into something digestible. Sabalenka didn't do that. She told the world she's a mess. That she's crying. Laughing hysterically. That she's so deep in her feelings that even her team is keeping a safe distance until the storm passes. That's not weakness. That's reality. This is what actually happens when you dedicate your entire life to a sport, grind through 2 brutal weeks at a Grand Slam, make it all the way to the final, and fall just short. The cameras capture the handshake, the trophy ceremony, maybe a few tears. But they don't capture the days after. The insomnia. The replaying of missed opportunities. The what-if points looping in your head at 3 a.m. You don't flip a switch and become competition ready again 5 days later. You're mentally shattered. Physically drained. Emotionally raw. You need time to process the grief before you can rebuild. Through that lens, her withdrawal from Qatar suddenly makes perfect sense. Showing up to another high-level tournament days after that kind of emotional trauma would be reckless. She'd risk showing up underprepared, losing early and spiraling further. That kind of downward momentum can dig a hole that takes months to escape. Taking a break isn't quitting. It's career management. But here's where the situation gets more layered and more strategic. Qatar isn't a tournament where Sabalenka is defending major ranking points. She won it back in 2020, announcing herself as a rising force. But in recent years, her results there haven't been dominant. Skipping it doesn't cost her much in the rankings. In fact, resting now could protect her position long-term by allowing her to peak at bigger events later in the season. That doesn't mean she's faking exhaustion. Burnout and emotional fatigue are very real, especially for someone who has been open about mental struggles in the past. But at this level, everything is calculated. The WTA calendar is unforgiving. Mandatory events. Premier tournaments. Surface switches. Long-haul flights. Media obligations. Sponsorship appearances. You cannot play everything at 100% without your body or mind breaking down, so players prioritize. They circle the tournaments that matter most for ranking points, prize money, legacy, and visibility. The rest becomes optional or at least negotiable. For many players this year, Qatar appears to fall into that negotiable category. The timing is brutal immediately after the Australian Open, with minimal recovery. The travel to the Middle East adds another physical layer. And looming right after is Dubai, a larger and more prestigious WTA 1000 event with bigger points and stronger competitive weight. If you're going to invest your energy in the Middle East swing, you're probably saving it for Dubai. From a strategic standpoint, it makes sense. From an organizational standpoint, it's a disaster. What makes it even more painful for Doha is that Sabalenka has history there. She burst onto the scene in 2020 by winning the title in spectacular fashion. That kind of breakthrough usually builds a bond between player and tournament. But loyalty in professional tennis only goes so far. Winning a trophy 6 years ago doesn't override exhaustion. It doesn't heal emotional wounds. It doesn't silence a body and mind begging for rest. Sabalenka doesn't owe Qatar her presence simply because she once lifted their trophy. Meanwhile, tournament organizers are likely in full crisis mode. Their marketing campaign revolved around star power. The promise of seeing the world's best compete live. Premium tickets were sold to fans expecting marquee matchups. Sponsors invested in visibility tied to global names. Broadcasters structured coverage around top-seed narratives. And then the withdrawals started stacking up. One headline. Then another. Then another. Now their top seed is elevated largely because higher-ranked players pulled out. Featured matches are being reshuffled. Casual fans scanning the draw might not recognize half the names they were promised months ago. The star power has thinned dramatically. From a business perspective, that's brutal. From a fan perspective, it's heartbreaking. Imagine you're a tennis fan in Qatar or elsewhere in the region. You don't get 10 elite WTA tournaments a year in your backyard. This is your chance. You plan ahead. You buy tickets early. You schedule time off work. You look forward to seeing Sabalenka's power, Pegula's consistency, Osaka's star aura. Then one by one, those names disappear. Sabalenka needs rest. Pegula is managing an issue. Osaka skips the swing. Others follow. Suddenly, the event you invested in feels different from what was advertised. That disappointment is real. But so is the reality on the player side. Elite athletes are not machines. They operate in cycles of peak and recovery. The modern tennis season stretches nearly year-round. The margin between dominance and burnout is razor-thin. What we're witnessing isn't just a tournament losing stars. It's a collision between commercial expectations and human limits. Sabalenka's honesty exposed something deeper than a single withdrawal. It highlighted the emotional volatility that comes with chasing greatness. The mental toll of standing on the brink of a Grand Slam title and falling short. Her absence from Qatar isn't a scandal. It's a signal that even the strongest competitors sometimes need to step back. That managing longevity now requires brutal self-awareness. That protecting your mind can be just as important as protecting your ranking. For Doha, this week feels like damage control. For Sabalenka, it's survival. And for the WTA as a whole, it raises an uncomfortable question: How sustainable is a system that leaves its biggest stars emotionally wrecked and physically depleted before the season has even truly begun? Right now, if you tuned into Doha without looking at the draw, you might genuinely think you were watching a challenger event instead of a premier WTA tournament. The star power is thin. The marquee matchups are gone. The names fans circled months ago when they bought tickets? Most of them aren't there. At what point do fans start asking hard questions? At what point do people who paid premium prices begin wondering whether they were sold one product and handed another? And at what point does a tournament start to feel like it's losing credibility? From the outside, it looks like a collapse. But flip the perspective. Put yourself in Sabalenka's position. She just walked off one of the most emotionally crushing stages in professional tennis, a Grand Slam final.
2 weeks of pressure. 2 weeks of expectation.
2 weeks of fighting through match after match under the global spotlight. And then, at the final hurdle, she falls short. She admitted she's not in a healthy headspace. She described herself as emotionally volatile. Laughing. Crying. Drained. If she forces herself onto a plane to Doha and pretends she's competition ready, what's the likely outcome? She shows up underprepared. She's flat. Maybe distracted. Maybe still replaying key points in her mind. She runs into a hungry player ranked outside the top 50 who has nothing to lose and everything to gain. Upset in the first or second round. Ranking points gone. Confidence dented further. Another disappointing result layered on top of Melbourne. That's how slumps begin. The smart move, the professional move, is recognizing when you're not ready and stepping back before you dig a deeper hole. That's not weakness. That's elite-level self-management. And this entire situation exposes a much bigger issue. The WTA calendar is brutal. There are too many mandatory events. Too many premier tournaments crammed into tight windows. Players are expected to perform at peak intensity for nearly 11 months of the year. The so-called off-season is barely long enough to heal minor injuries, let alone reset mentally after a draining campaign. What we're seeing in Qatar isn't random. It's the predictable result of burnout. Players are exhausted, carrying niggles, managing inflammation, protecting mental health. So they make strategic calculations. Which tournaments truly matter? Which events offer the most ranking points? Which ones carry prestige that impacts legacy? Which ones justify the physical cost? And which ones can be sacrificed? Unfortunately for Doha this year, it landed in the sacrifice category for many top players. Now, from a competitive standpoint, Iga Swiatek stepping in as the top seed is fascinating. She's world number 2 and arguably the most dominant force on tour right now. With Sabalenka and several other top names out, her path to the title just widened dramatically. If you're Swiatek, you're looking at this as opportunity. Less resistance. Fewer heavyweight battles. A cleaner route to ranking points and prize money. But here's the uncomfortable truth: even if she wins, some fans will quietly attach an asterisk. Great win, but half the top 10 wasn't there. That's not fair to her. You can only beat who's in front of you, but perception matters. A title earned in a depleted draw doesn't carry the same narrative weight as conquering a fully stacked field at the same time. This chaos creates opportunity elsewhere. Players who were originally grinding through qualifying, Alexandra Eala, Daria Kasatkina, Kristina Buxa, and others, suddenly find themselves in main draw positions with a real shot at a deep run. For them, this isn't a disaster. It's a breakthrough window. A quarterfinal or semifinal in a premier event can change everything. Your ranking jumps. Your name gains recognition. Sponsors start calling. You get direct entry into bigger tournaments instead of battling through qualifiers every week. While the tournament loses star power, it gains unpredictability. And unpredictability can be electric. Sometimes when the giants step aside, a new story is born. An underdog goes on a run. A young talent announces herself. A career shifts in a single week. That's the beauty of sport. Now, strategically, Sabalenka's plan makes perfect sense. She's not skipping the Middle East entirely. She's targeting Dubai, a WTA 1000 event. Bigger prize money. Bigger ranking points. Bigger prestige. If you're managing your season, that's the tournament you circle. You can't play everything. So you prioritize. Dubai offers more upside. More reward. More long-term impact on rankings and legacy. Rest in Qatar. Reload. Show up sharper in Dubai. That's not avoidance. That's strategy. And here's another reality fans don't always want to acknowledge: money matters. When appearance fees and prize pools hit certain thresholds, players find the energy. They manage pain. They push through fatigue. The financial incentives are simply too significant to ignore. If the payout isn't as compelling, suddenly rest becomes more appealing. Recovery becomes more urgent. Mental health becomes the priority. That's professional tennis, that it's not just about passion. It's about career management in a physically punishing sport with a relatively short earning window. And this brings us to the deeper conflict at the heart of what's happening in Qatar, the disconnect between fan expectations and player needs. Fans want the best players competing every single week. They want epic battles, rivalries,
consistency.
They want superheroes. Players want longevity,
Health.
sustainable careers.
Strategic scheduling.
They want to peak at the events that define their legacy. Grand Slams and WTA 1000s, not burn themselves out chasing every available trophy. When those priorities clash, players will choose themselves. Every time. And honestly, they should. The WTA has to confront this structural issue. Because if nothing changes, Qatar won't be an isolated incident. Maybe the solution is spacing events out more intelligently. Creating genuine recovery windows instead of symbolic off days. Reducing mandatory commitments so players have flexibility without facing penalties. Or increasing prize money at smaller events so the incentive to compete outweighs the physical cost. Whatever the answer is, the current system clearly isn't sustainable. We're watching a premier tournament unravel because too many of its intended headliners decided that protecting their bodies and minds mattered more than fulfilling a calendar slot. That's not a scandal. That's a warning sign. Sabalenka's withdrawal is simply the most visible example. It won't be the last as long as the tour demands near constant peak performance across continents, climates and surfaces. Players will continue making strategic decisions. They'll circle the biggest prizes. They'll skip the rest. They'll protect their longevity over any single event's prestige. And tournaments caught in awkward scheduling windows will suffer. So here we are. Aryna Sabalenka is out. Several other top names are out. And the Qatar Open has transformed from a star-studded showcase into an unpredictable free-for-all for whoever showed up ready to compete. This isn't just about one withdrawal, it's about a system stretched thin, it's about elite athletes admitting they're human, it's about the tension between commercial interests and well-being. And right now, the players are choosing themselves. Can you really